Some of these protesters hold up signs proclaiming gays for Gaza. They might as well hold up signs saying chickens for KFC.
Welcome to the BJ Show. Let's rock and roll. Rock and roll. Come on, everybody. Let's lose control. Where John never wants to follow. Yeah, ready for the ride. It's the BJ Show. BJ Show.
It is us, the BJ Show. That is John Combest, C-O-M-B-E-S-T. Good morning to you, John.
Good morning to you, Brad. Happy hump day.
Happy. Oh, yeah, this was always a big day for Shelley back in the days on the BS show. Happy hump day it is. John Combest, C-O-M-B-E-S-T. Every day he puts together a list of the top things that he says is going on around the state of Missouri. Puts together at his website, johncombest.com. That's why I spelled Combest, C-O-M-B-E-S-T. And what we do is we start up the show and we feature the top three. Hold on a minute. I got a cough. Okay. We feature what John thinks are the top three stories of all the stories he's featured on that day of johncombest.com. Now, John, I ask your forgiveness for a minute or two. I want to discuss something before we get into the top three because I want to go
Please do. I'd love to hear it, Brad.
Right on the top, okay? You and I have talked about this before. There are, and it seems like it's almost always the Democrats. I don't see this too much in the Republicans. Maybe it exists with the Repubs, but I don't see it as... I don't see it at all. I see it with the Democrats. They're talking points that go out. And you know they're talking points that go out because of the fact that in that day, anytime they interview a leading Democratic person, be there, somebody in the administration or a senator or a rep or a governor, they say almost the exact same things. You know what I'm talking about?
Sure. And, message discipline.
Right. And what's interesting is there are certain talk show hosts that will have their producers record these and cut them up. And it actually is sort of funny because you'll hear 10, 12 different Democratic people say the exact same thing. I mean, word for word. Now, one happened last week, which I thought was interesting. Or might have happened Monday. I don't know, it was either Monday or last week, where there was one word that was sent out to all as a talking point to all the Democrats, and that one word was about J.D. Vance. You know what that one word was?
W-E-I-R-D.
Exactly. You know about this then. Weird. Like, one day, miraculously, all these Democratic people started talking, well, that J.D. Vance, he's weird. He's weird. And matter of fact, Monday night on the Daily Show with whatever his name is, John. What's his name? John. I'm terrible.
John Stewart.
John Stewart. Okay, he was Pete Buttigieg was John Stewart's guest, and I have a bet going with someone, and it's sort of funny because they sent me the video, the YouTube video of Pete Buttigieg and John Stewart on Monday night. And the bet is, I say that Pete Buttigieg will be the vice president. And this particular person kept saying, there's no way in hell. And what's interesting is, this person sent me this video and essentially said, I think you're right. I think you are going to call this one. I think Pete Buttigieg is going to be the vice president. Now, I'll go back to that, the Pete Buttigieg thing. But here's what I think we should do. And you're the guy that could pull this off. You ready for this?
I'm ready. I want to hear it.
We start off the show with talking points. That that every day we start the show, we're going to say, okay, here are their talking points. And then what you'll do is when you put the videos up and you put this on Instagram and you put this on when you chop this up and put this on, I'll put it on the podcast, and you put it on X, and you put it on YouTube where we have our shows archived. We'll put the talking points in there, and essentially see what happens. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the promulgate. And now you've heard people pick up some of our lingo from the show over the last few months, Brad, haven't you?
Right. But see, we do this on a daily basis, and we almost do it like as a joke, to the point where, and it's got to be something weird that when we hear it, we'll know, oh, that came from us. Like turkey trot. Well, that guy's just doing the turkey trot. You know what I'm saying? And
I do know that.
But and then we'll see, and it'll be like a game, and maybe we'll get to the point where when people start playing this game with us, maybe we'll get Mary Elizabeth Coleman, or we'll get the Crystal Quaid, or we'll get Bill Eigel, who will then send us their clip. Hey, Brad and John, thanks for the talking points the other morning. I was in front of a group. I was doing the morning schmooze at the O'Fallon Chamber of Commerce, or I was doing the Fraternal Organization of Police in O'Fallon, and I said turkey trot, and I just want you to hear that I used it in here's how I used it in context. What do you think, John?
And they'll be spreading the good word, Brad. And, we're not the types to celebrate when people do that. I think it's better to be a little bit, more subtle about that. But, yeah, I mean, the promulgation of memes and ideas throughout pop culture is fascinating to me.
Well,
and, as it relates to weird, one of my favorite things has been the counter memes that Republicans and conservatives and libertarians have put out in response to some of the people who call J.D. Vance weird. Like, look at some of those people. Do they own a mirror, Brad?
Well, there's an article which I used to have. I saved the URL on it, and I would send it to people all the time, and it was a really great article, and it was called "Weird is Good," and it gave all these very important people that we all know that have created tremendous products. They created great companies. They've done amazing things, and they're all weirdos. And essentially, the purpose of the article was being a weirdo is a good thing. So the interesting part of this is the Democrats are trying to brand J.D. Vance as weird. When I hear that, I thought to myself, the first time I heard it, I thought to myself, well, that's, in my mind, that's a compliment. I like weird people.
I mean, they would, but these are the same type of people that put down Christian, quote, Christian nationalism, unquote. I don't think you want the Hollywood crowd to think that you're normal or cool. Or if you do, I don't know what kind of code by which you live your life. You know what I'm saying? And speaking of codes by which other people lead their life, Brad, is Casey around?
Well, hold on. Let's finish this off. Are we going to do this? Or should we? Can we do it?
No. Let's keep talking about this. This is great.
No. Are we going to do it? We'll just you and I'll just come up with.
Oh yeah. I mean, I thought we have been doing that all along, Brad.
Well, I mean, we'll
I think we've just been a little more subtle about it.
We'll start the show off. I'll do the intro. We'll start the show off, and I'll literally say today's talking points are, and throughout the show we'll throw them in every once in a while, and we'll see what happens. I mean, are you down with that?
We need you to make up a word though, like and I think it would be so that we could be very specific about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you could start subtle by for example, we're 8 minutes in and you haven't mentioned Tracy or Rick Ellis today. So you could find a slang that references them and see if anybody at 93.3 actually picks it up.
Kind of. Did you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't hear you for a second. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I mean, that's one of your favorites, Brett. Now, if that catches on, that would be a whole thing. It would be like making fetch happen in the movie Mean Girls. If it caught on, it would be a big thing.
Interesting. Okay. John's giving me a subtle cue that he doesn't want to talk about that anymore. It's time for us to get into the top three.
Now on with the countdown. I'm Casey Kasem. We're on our way to the number one, and here they are.
There's enough Casey for you.
In third place,
Missouri is moving up the ranks, Brad. And, in fact, it appears as though for the first 6 months of 2024, Missouri has surpassed the state of Colorado in one of your favorite metrics, Brad. Do you know what it is?
Selling marijuana, right?
Absolutely right.
Crazy.
This story is brought to us by Greta Cross, who, as we know, does a great job documenting drag queens in the Midwest. But she's doing a little work on marijuana here, and the Columbia Missourian also reported this yesterday as well, Brad. it appears as though Missouri for the first 6 months, and some of these numbers some of the industry numbers don't exactly jibe with state numbers, but for the most part, it looks as though Missouri has surpassed Colorado, and Missouri is now the number 5 state in the nation for total recreational marijuana sales, not just per capita, Brad. Now, I would have gotten this question wrong, Brad. Try to name the top 4 states for recreational marijuana sales.
I'm going to say it's states you wouldn't imagine. I want to say Pennsylvania. Is that one of them?
That's not, but there's something in the Northeast region that I wouldn't have guessed.
Maine?
Massachusetts is number 4.
Well, I can see Massachusetts.
And a border state to Missouri is number 3.
That has to be Illinois.
That is Illinois. Number 2 is a state where I believe, didn't we establish that a former country music star was the governor, Brad?
That's Michigan. Yeah, that's and you know what, Shelley Barr. I used to always, to get that one by her. She never would pick up on that. Gretchen Wilson. I would always say Gretchen Wilson. She stopped being a country star. Now she's the governor of Michigan. And Shelley would always go, "Really? Is that really the same person?" Yeah, it's Gretchen Wilson. Gretchen Whitmer.
You're right.
Yes.
Yeah. Number 2 is the state of Michigan, and of course, number 1 by far is the state of California. So, Brad, this is pretty amazing. And to be clear, when I say that there's a little bit of a dichotomy, or I guess I should say divergence, sometimes industry numbers vary slightly from what is reported by the state regulators. But for the most part, though, Brad, it looks like the state of Missouri has surpassed Colorado. And that had Greta Cross from the News Leader points out that Colorado had long been known as the weed capital of the United States.
Well,
so good for Missouri, Brad.
Matter of fact, I don't know if you know this is Brad with his nerddom stuff. There's a famous road sign on Interstate 70 in Colorado that kept getting stolen, and it was a mile marker, and it was mile marker 420, and the mile marker I don't know how many times they replaced that mile marker on Interstate 70 in Colorado, and finally they moved the mile marker they moved it 10 feet, so it's 419.99, so there's no more 420 anymore, so they can't steal the thing anymore. Okay, so if the state of Colorado had a sense of humor, Brad, what they could have done was manufacture a bunch of those signs
and actually sell them.
You know what? You have brought up the difference between government and private sector, because if the private sector ran the CODOT, Colorado Department of Transportation, they'd say, "Hey, stop stealing our sign. Just go on our website, and we'll sell you an authentic, we'll reflectorize commercial version of the 420 sign, and it's only $199." And they'd get some company that knock them out for $20 a piece, and they'd sell gazillion, and that could go to the tax coffers and reduce the tax debt in Colorado. But no, they're not going to do that. Instead, they come up with some weird solution where they move it 10 feet and it's no longer 420. Okay, I've got to ask you a serious question. I mean this sincerely. Okay, with all the money that's coming in to the coffers, and remember, this money's going for education, how come this hasn't fixed the problems in the city of St. Louis with education? I mean, all this marijuana money.
I don't think the money's going for education. I think it's going for veterans issues, Brad. I think it's going to remediate folks who have been incarcerated for minor offenses, and it's going to, most importantly, pay for itself. So it will pay for its own bureaucracy.
John, don't give me that. They pushed this, that this was, what was I remember the campaign, Doobies for Education. What was that?
That's true. Actually, it said Dubious Education, and it was the name of one of your silent movies, Brad, that folks can find on YouTube.
And they brought
Dubious Education plays right after Board of Education on YouTube.
And they brought back a old TV star from Romper Room, and she'd look in her mirror, "Mirror, mirror, all you doobies out there." You don't know that reference, do you?
I don't. Romper Room was a little before my time.
Okay. Miss Lois would call you, if you were a good kid, you were a doobie.
Are you serious?
You think I'm kidding? Okay, I'll pull up the reference. Let's move on to number 2. I'll research that one.
Up a notch to number 2.
Something I think we should keep a close and skeptical eye on, Brad. Yesterday, University of Missouri President Moon Choi announced that he was dissolving the university's Office of Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity. BKA, better known as a DEI office, but in this case it goes IDE. No staff will be laid off, and programming will remain, just housed under different departments. Now, this story is brought to us by Ezra Bitterman from the Columbia Missourian, who I've mentioned him before. He does a really good job. He's a young man in Columbia who does a good job. The Kansas City Star also has a lamenting, tearful piece about Republican attacks on DEI. And the progressive blog Missouri Independent also has a piece up that I linked to today. So, Brad, what I think is curious about this is that Moon Choi is dissolving the office itself, but taking all the employees and their programs and simply moving them under existing divisions. So this piece is it's detailed very clearly in the Columbia Missourian piece. I won't go through all the details here. But, for example, LaToya Stevens, who you may know as Michael Jackson's sister, LaToya. I don't think it's the same one. Maybe it is. She was the head of marketing and communications under the inclusion and, the DEI office. Now she's just reporting to Central Marketing and Communications Department. So, Brad, the reason why I say to keep a skeptical and close eye on this as we go forward is, yes, state legislatures throughout the country are putting pressure on higher education institutions to get rid of DEI. But is it enough, Brad, for Moon Choi to say, okay, no more DEI office if he's simply reshuffling the deck? If it's just window dressing, are we really helping to put an end to discrimination, particularly anti-white and anti-Asian discrimination? Brad?
The interesting thing about that is I remember when that song came out.
What song was that, Brad?
Don't you know the song? Cat Stevens?
I don't know the song.
I've been looking for a Moon Choi, Moon Choi, Moon Choi.
Now, what's the original version of that?
Moon Shadow.
Oh, okay. I'm unfamiliar.
That's Cat Stevens who smoked too many doobies, and then he went weird, and he's now got some other crazy name. He's like, I don't know. He's off the charts. I looked that up.
Wait, so you're saying that somebody from your generation is still alive? Are you sure the big Lois in the Sky didn't call him home by singing Doobie Doobie?
Okay, here's what's sad, John. You get me sidetracked. Every day I go on our trade publication, and almost every day there's somebody that I worked with who's dead, okay? And almost every time, this is a horrible thing for me to say, I say to myself, I'm surprised they live this long, because of the fact that back in the day when I knew them, let's say that there was always a snowstorm around where they were, if you know what I'm saying. It's.
I know exactly what you're saying there.
Okay, on with the countdown.
The number one.
Senator Josh Hawley was grilling the acting director of the Secret Service yesterday, Brad. Now, I have a compendium of these stories up, brought to us by Tony's Kansas City. TKC pulled them all together. And Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz were grilling this acting director. The gist of it, Brad, is that there's an ongoing investigation of what happened at the Trump assassination attempt and why a better effort was not made, or I should say a more thorough effort was not made to protect the former president. And no heads have rolled. So in short, and reading through these stories, Brad, Josh Hawley wants a scalp, and he wants it now. And the acting director, a gentleman named Ronald Rowe, says, hey, we have procedures in place. And Josh Hawley's quote, I think this is near verbatim, is, I don't care about your procedures and your policies. So Josh Hawley wants heads to roll, and the acting director says, hey, pal, we're looking into it. We'll let you know when we find out who's responsible for this.
Well, I listened to the beginning of the testimony yesterday, and the new Secret Service dude, the acting dude, man, he came out strong. But then it got sort of bizarre because there were questions that were being asked that he should have known the answer to. And what's sad about this is I can go on YouTube. Did I send you this video of this is some gal, some lady. I get in trouble for that, because
who cares? If people get mad, they can shove it. Go ahead, Brad.
Okay.
You were talking about some broad that was answering a question.
Some chick, right? No.
Some chick. Well, she's not a chick unless she's probably dropping fertile eggs. But go ahead, Brad.
She's a computer modeling expert, okay? And she does all these amazing 3D videos of all sorts of crazy things. And she did the most comprehensive video where she traced all of the shots that were shot by, this nutbag, assassin, would-be assassin. Well, he did kill somebody, so he was an assassin. And the amazing thing is, I'm thinking to myself, okay, here's some lady in her house using, off-the-shelf 3D modeling software, and she puts together an incredible presentation, and it's one of these things where she moves it around. You know what I'm talking about? You ever seen these things where they do like a 360?
I know, yeah.
They rotate it.
The angle. It's kind of like Google Street View.
Right, they rotate the angle and the whole bit. And the bizarre part of it was, and this is very sad, and what nobody has talked about, according to what she showed, the guy who got killed, the reason he got killed was he stood up and he was on the opposite side of the, if you looked at the way the stage was set up, there was a set of stands that were right behind the stage that were parallel to the stage, and then there were a set of stages, as you're out in the audience, there were a set of stands on the right side that were at 45 degree angle, and there was a set of stands on the left side that were a 45 degree angle, and the first bullet that hit Trump in the ear hit one of the guys on the right side of the stands. The same bullet, like almost like the Kennedy magic bullet theory, okay? And then she traces the other bullet. Well, one of the last shots was the guy who got killed was sitting in the left side of the stands, and he stood up and he got hit in the back of the head with the bullet trying to shield his family. If he wouldn't have stood up, he wouldn't have been shot. But he was standing up to shield his family, and bang, got hit in the back of the head. Nobody's ever told that story before. And they go like, well, and I'm thinking to myself, and here Hawley was asking him sort of softball questions, like the story that keeps going around. Was there somebody on the roof? Yes. He didn't answer that directly. He sort of skated around that. And the story that's come out was, yeah, there was somebody who was supposed to be a local law enforcement or somebody who was supposed to be up on that roof, but it was too hot. And
it was very hot, Brad.
Right. I'm going like, it's like, okay, sloped roof, too hot. I mean, what are we doing? We hiring mamby-pamby Secret Service and police officers? Oh my God, I can't protect the president. The roof's too steep. Oh my God, I can't protect the president. It's too hot. I mean, what is going on?
If Joe Biden was there, would it have been too hot to put somebody on the roof? Would the slope have been too steep if Joe Biden was speaking?
Well, John, I will tell you the reason that question is tough to answer is because of turkey trot. Okay?
I think that's it, yeah.
That's our phrase of the day. Okay.
Hey, I'd love to stay in chat, but Lois says that all doobies should report to heaven.
I can't find my reference on that yet, but
Are you sure that this wasn't just you and Timothy Leary, or you and Abby Hoffman were hanging out in a tree eating bananas one day, and you imagine this?
It was me, Timothy Leary, and it was Katy Perry's father, who were all hanging out together. Okay, it was us three. Okay.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's C-O-M-B-E-S-T, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?